Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/goblin. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
That's where that large bobber comes in handy.
Right, but you're still clicking too early sometimes or way too late, because your reaction time's all messed up by then.
Yeah.
Try it on a PvP server. That'll keep you awake.
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 14. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is the man who got us started. It's Danny DeVito's body double, Mac from Anchorage, Alaska. How you doing, Mac?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Thanks. Body double
not doing
you.
Too bad. Well, you weren't quite tall enough, but they let you slide.
There we go.
This week, Mac and I are going to be looking ahead to what's coming up in the 7.1 content patch and how we might be able to profit from it. But before we do that, let's talk about this week in WoW. How was your week, Mac?
The week was fine. Still continuing to bring up my item level on my main, leveling a third alt to 110. I'm doing pretty good at getting drops, the legendaries and stuff for my characters, but the RNG for my fishing artifact, you've got to do that first quest, bigger fish to fry, and get every zone in the Broken Isles. You have to fish up 3 special fish, and there's a bait that you have to use to get each one of the fish. And I buzzed right through Azuna and Valshara, got all of them within about an hour. And then I got to High Mountain, and oh my God, I've got one of the fish in there, and then the other 2 I'm just having a bugger of a time. Money there. I checked the auction house because the baits are sellable, right. And there's some good money to be made for those bait fish for that artifact quest. And if anybody's doing any fishing and you get those little special ones, you can look at Wowhead and check out the artifact, fishing artifact. And I've seen them. One of the items, the funky sea snail, at least on Dalaran's going for $10K in the auction house, and there's about 3 of them up there.
Wow, really? Is it that rare?
I'm having a hard time finding it.
$10K seems like an awful lot for a piece of bait.
Right. Well, and then the swollen Murloc egg is another one I'm having a hard time finding. That's again in High Mountain, and that one's going for about 1,100 on Dalaran. So
I'm willing to bet that the bait isn't going for as much, not nearly as much on Demon's Soul, the PvP server that I frequent. I know you're going through it a little bit on your fishing artifact. I only do fishing on one character, and it's a hunter that I have on Demon's Soul, which is PvP. And I got to tell you, I'm really not looking forward to that. I think that's gonna be a little bit of a problem. I can imagine paying $10K for a piece of bait, and as soon as you apply it, somebody kills you.
Right. And for anybody following us on Twitter. You may have noticed I got a little snarky the other night. Apologize. Blizzard, we love you, but they were having an issue with their login servers, and they put it out to everybody that hey, we know we're having issues, and we'll have to resolve soon. And I was great, fantastic. Sat back and started cooking in the kitchen. Little thing came up on my Twitter account, which is on my cell phone, saying that the issues have been resolved. And if you're still having problems, tweet out that you're still having problems. So I ran upstairs, tried to get on the computer, tried to log in the game. Nope, exact same problem I was having all night. And I tweeted them back saying, hey, still having the same issues. And their response was, we'll look into it. but if you continue to have problems, check with your ISP. And my ISP, I had access to every other online game that I have on this computer. I had access to all of them. I had access to my Skype. I had access to all of my other applications, internet applications, and I kind of tweeted back. It's not I tweeted back that very same thing and said it's not a my ISP problem. And it was just after I sent it out, it was like that may have been a little snarky, but
hey, look, I've had frustrating moments like that, but one that comes to mind is my internet connection went out at the house once, and I had Xfinity, and I get on the phone with them and I contact them. The first question that I get is they say we're sorry for the wait, but you do realize that you could have actually gone online and used our online service to answer any questions that you have.
Blink, blink, blink.
Yeah, I paused for a few seconds and then took a deep breath because I needed a little bit of breath for the very long drawn out list of obscenities that I was about to spew. But it's like tech support saying, well, did you reboot your computer? Did you shut everything off and turn it back on?
Oh, you remember when I bought my new gaming mouse, and I was having issues with my old wireless mouse, and I told someone who will remain unnamed, hey, I've got to go out and buy a new mouse. I'm going to get a little higher end one this time. I'm having issues. I can right click, but my left click button is just totally fried. Well, did you change the batteries? It's like right click works, left click doesn't. If the batteries were bad.
Right.
Anyways, I'll be sleeping on the couch for a week now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's hard to figure out who you were talking about, so I don't think you're going to escape trouble for that.
Yeah, you're no safer than I am. Your Mrs. Dex doesn't listen to the podcast.
No, she doesn't. No, she has no interest. She has to hear my voice all day long, and she doesn't want to hear it any more than she has to. So.
We work opposite shifts. It's kept us married for years.
There you go.
But she has found some things, some of the old world stuff to make gold. Gift of Critical Strike, a Gift of Haste, the enchants for your back, necks, and rings. It's not going for a ton, but 200 to 500 gold a pop for if you've got a tune that's from Drainer that's just sitting in your guild hall, not guild hall, garrison doing nothing.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that it's related to Legion enchants still being a little pricey for some people.
Oh, sure. Or if you're trying to level an alt or something that
Well, the other thing too is as you're leveling, if you want to maintain enchants on gear that you're going to be replacing an hour from now or 2 hours from now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to to spend all that gold on the latest and greatest. And what a lot of people end up doing is just not having any enchants at all. And that's what I typically do. But if somebody's wanting to do something in the middle of that, somewhere in the middle, they could spend a little bit of gold, relatively speaking, and be a lot more effective out there while they're leveling. Yeah,
but like I said, she's making. She was saying that she's made 10K the last couple days. It's not a ton of gold, but it's a decent amount of gold.
Right, and that's somebody that's not a big time gold maker. That's somebody that's just playing the game and enjoying herself, and let me make a little bit of gold so that I can keep enjoying it. So very very casual in the gold making arena. That's really good.
But yeah, I know if she wanted to, she could go to town on that and make a pretty decent amount of gold.
Gold making. And that brings up an interesting point to cover too. When we're talking on this show about making gold, and you really want to think about it in terms of how much you can make compared to what you make now. and not, don't do a direct comparison to what someone else is making, because for like for Mac's wife, for instance, who is not big time into gold making, that's a lot of gold for her, and that's awesome. That's awesome for the amount of effort that she wants to put into gold making and not take away from the other things she wants to do in the game. That's great.
I'm about to say the difference between you and me with gold. I mean, I know you have a lot more gold than I do. I'm still working.
But there's a character, a player on Zul'Jin, KZ, that a lot of people know of, and if KZ had the amount of gold that I had, it would put him into a deep depression.
Right.
I mean, this is a guy that probably spends all the gold that I have in an hour or less, just, I don't know, on whatever. So it's all relative, what one person has compared to another, and you want to measure from where you're at. So if you've never had more than 10 or 20K to rub together, breaking that 100K mark is huge.
Right.
So it's, that's how you should set your goals. It should be, in comparison to what you have now for where you want to be. But I don't want to get too far afield on that.
Right.
Anything else this week for your week that you wanted to cover?
No, there's some other things from this week, but they're going to actually roll into the next portion of the podcast, so I'll wait for that.
Okay. Well, for me, I'm starting to switch gears a bit. I'm starting to level my level 100 plus alts to 110. Blizzard's starting to make some changes in how alts are working in Legion, and I think we're going to see a lot more positive changes, making things a little less painful, shall we say. And I don't think what I think happened. You had Warlords, which was about as alt-friendly as it could be. It was a hugely alt-friendly, alt-army-friendly expansion. And if you had a lot of characters, you could do a lot with each one of the characters, logging them in for a few minutes, make a lot of gold, log them out. And they didn't want that to happen with Legion. And I think what happens is, with anything, if you have something that goes wrong in a certain area, if you're not careful, there's a tendency to swing back the other direction too far.
Yeah, I think they swung the pendulum way too far in the other direction.
They did. That's what happened with Legion, is they went too far. And to be fair, I think they realized that. They don't get a whole lot of negative. They're not hearing a whole lot of negative about Legion because, let's face it, it's a lot better than other expansions that they've put out. But the negative that they are hearing, a lot of it is tied to how alts are affected. And in the punishing way that people that like to play a lot of alts are dealt with.
Well, for me, my second account is the one that may be suffering. I may end up having to cancel that second account because I just don't have any playtime on it. So there's going to be a monetary issue there as well, if more people are having the same situation I am.
Well, but I think to be fair though, most people that play a lot of alts aren't playing on multiple accounts. I run 2 all the time. You're running 2 now, but a lot of people that play a lot of alts are doing it the way you used to do, where they'll have 11 or 12 characters on the realm that
right.
They'll split their time among. So not being able to utilize those alts aren't going to really hit them financially for people that are like that. So I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact there, but where it will have an impact is if the people that are subscribing in general get a little bit, they start to not feel so great about the expansion in general, and they lose interest in it. That's where the danger comes in. So I think they're going to make some adjustments. They've already made some, and I think 7.1 is going to bring more adjustments. And when flying is introduced, the fact that flying will be applied to, it'll be an account-wide thing, a BattleNet-wide thing. that will be a very positive thing for bringing alts through. So it's getting better. It's going to get better. But,
they're reactive and their reactions are positive 99% of the time. I really enjoy it. I'm enjoying the expansion, so don't get me wrong there. But yeah.
Yeah. So what I've done, I've been gearing up for that and getting ready for it, because, like I said, I know it's going to get even better. And besides that, coming up here next week, actually before we do our next podcast, Hollow's End, World Event Hollow's End is going to start, and we're all aware of what my nemesis is there. And
try again for that silly horse mount.
I'm probably going to, yeah. But if I'm going to, I'm going to need more than one 110. Currently, I've only got one, and so if I want to have multiple attempts at that per day, I better do that. That's something I have to look into. But I'm thinking I might have 3, maybe 4 by the time Hollow's End kicks off. It just depends on how much time I can put into it. I actually level pretty quickly. I just haven't put a lot of time into it because, like a lot of people, I've looked at it as, well, if I'm playing an alt, I'm really suffering on my main. And
right.
It's that's a feeling that a lot of people have, and they're right, because there's so much to do and so much that has to be done. You are truly sacrificing a lot on your main to bring up an alt.
Well, on my main, I've been able to sit and about every 3 days go and start doing the world quests, because I get the emissary quests about every 3 days, because I'll clear through them, and then it takes 3 days to get all of them back up.
Oh, you wait till you get them all back. You don't do them as they come up then.
Right. Sometimes it depends on how I'm feeling, but usually it's helping me to level my alts a little bit more.
Right.
And so I can rotate through my alts that way. One day I play an alt, and I play another alt the next day. And I should have like right now I've almost got three 110s. I should have 4 by next podcast.
Wow, our roles are reversed on that a little bit. Normally that's me with a whole bunch of alts at max level. But my play time has been severely limited. I had a lot of things that could not be avoided in the last couple of weeks that I've had to do. That's especially this last week that severely limited my gameplay. But that should be changing this week, and I can kick it into high gear and start leveling up some alts. But,
there we go.
So, anything else this week you wanted to mention before we go into the next section?
No, I think we've covered it. Still doing a great job. Again, apologize for my snarkiness on Twitter the other night. And
hey, you got to learn a lesson from the all of those NFL, NBA players, and so forth, that they get on Twitter and they cost themselves their career because they they fire off something without even thinking. Well, that brings us to our main topic this week then, making gold with the 7.1 content patch. BlizzCon is just around the corner, and my guess is that they're going to announce the date when 7.1 is going to drop, the content patch, that is. And, I also think that since it's been on the PTR for a little while, the release date's probably going to be November 8th, which is the Tuesday after BlizzCon. Today what we want to do, we want to look ahead to this patch and see if there's any kind of gold-making opportunities that might lie ahead for us. With the patch, we're going to see the release of a 9-boss mythic dungeon called Karazhan, and I am really looking forward to this. Mac, I don't know how much you've read about this so far, but it looks like so much fun.
Well, it looks like a group content type, raid-ish type thing, but for group content.
Right. Well, what it is, it has a 1 week lockout, so it's not like heroic, and it's not like certainly not like a regular dungeon. So what it's made so that if you have you got a group of friends that want to go through a dungeon, you can say, all right, we're going to do this wing today, and then tomorrow we're going to do this other section, and then we'll do another section. And you can take your time and move through it during the week, because you're not going to be able to progress, any faster than, one time per week running through it. And you're going to want to do it because the dungeon loot is eye level 855 to 875.
Sweet.
So you're going to want to do it. Now, there's some attuning that's required to get into it, but it's this is going to be a very popular dungeon. It's sort of like the Blackrock dungeon that has all the different bosses all over the place. So right. When that came out, it's big, it's huge, and like I said, it's something that you can work all week towards getting through, or you can, if you want to, you can burn through it and spend all day long, or however long it takes, going through and taking out all 9 bosses, and then wait for a week if you want. But I think we're going to really enjoy that. We'll get our core group of friends that like to do these things, and we'll hit it, and I'm sure we'll have some adventures to talk about. With that.
See if Matt can stay awake. No.
Oh yeah. But there are a lot of interesting things within this dungeon. One of the pieces of loot is called Astonishing Scarlet Slippers. It's an epic 850, I think it's 850 cloth item. These slippers, and they have a clicky that is a hearth, and so it has a 30-minute cooldown, but it gives you another hearthstone, basically. Same hearthstone, but it gives you another ability to use it.
Sweet. As long as they don't interfere with each other, that's great.
If they had a shared cooldown, that wouldn't make any sense at all, because your cooldown on your regular hearth is only
15 minutes?
15 minutes, yeah. So that wouldn't make any sense at all. It would be completely out of no purpose. But another item we've got is Midnight Eternal Rains, and this is a mount that drops from the boss Tumen. And this is like a fiery warhorse. But it's fiery warhorse on steroids. This thing looks awesome, and it's a ground mount that is it kicks ass. It's nice. Also, there's another mount called Smoldering Ember Rains, and no one knows for sure what this is going to drop off. It's assumed, though, that it's going to drop off of the final boss, the 9th boss in the dungeon. And this is a flying mount, and this is one that I'm going to want for my Destruction Warlock. This is, it's like a skeletal dragon. It's all fire. Everywhere, and real cool looking. And so like I said, some nice things in this dungeon, some nice things going on, and really looking forward to it ever since I first heard about it. And I think this is one of those bridge dungeons that's kind of it's not a dungeon, it's not a raid, it's kind of a rungeon, I guess. or it's a dade. Is it a dade or a rungeon? I don't know, but it's kind of it's a hybrid.
Well, I've heard it's going to be tough. A lot of fun. We'll see when it comes out. I'm ready for it.
All right.
And so next, we have a thing that actually one of our listeners contacted us on Facebook and last week and. Let us know about the Dark Moon Fair. You've got the Daggermaw fish that you can fish up there.
Right.
And he was mentioning that next, the 7.1 patch with the Dark Moon Fair, they're going to have that underwater stingray mount for 500 Daggermaw fish. And there's actually been a pretty decent run on the fish, depending on what server you're on. I've seen them going for as little as 16 gold apiece and to as much as 209. When the Facebook comment came out, I actually got that. My phone buzzed for me while I was at work, and I called my wife and said, "Hey, go check this out." She made a ton of gold. Whisper when the server prices were 209 a fish, and She sold a bunch of them that first night. So I mean, this is something you could lose your shirt if you try to speculate on some of this stuff. But if you're just trying to fish, I mean, I think there's some good gold to be made for that.
Now, I remember when you told me about that, I checked a few different realms, and Whisperwind was very high, of course. Demon Soul was, I think, 149 per fish, and Dalaran was between 7 and 14.
Right.
So,
yeah. Demon Soul's still about 150 per fish.
Yeah, that's wild to me. Just the difference in prices from one realm to the next on something like that. But now keep in mind the mount's not available yet, so this is something that the vast majority of people that play the game don't know anything about this mount. They have no idea that it's coming. The fish have been in the game for a long time, but they have a new use. They have something else they can be used for.
And next Dark Moon Fair is the 6th of November, so if 7.1 hasn't dropped by then, which I don't think it's going to.
I think it's going to drop shortly after that. Like I said, I think it's going to drop. Dark Moon Fair will come out, and it'll be like a couple days after that we'll get the 7.1. That's my guess. The timing will be right.
But that'll be right during BlizzCon. But but that'd be or right after, yeah. That'll be a way to make some possibly make some gold. Again, it's I could see it being a pretty volatile market, but as long as you're not spending a lot of gold on it, I think it's a way that you can make some money in the auction house.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that absolutely hate fishing. I'm not really a fan myself. It's been a necessity for certain things, and I will actually at some point go after the fishing artifact on one character and one character only. That's it. I have one that I do fishing on. I have no desire to do it on any other. But a lot of people feel that way about fishing. And they're speaking of fishing in 7.1, something I didn't put in the show notes. They're introducing a whole bunch of new little bobbers to the game that are, rubber duck bobber, all these different. They're trying to add some fun to fishing. Of course, it's still waiting for something to move and then clicking on it in the water. But so we haven't really changed the.
Sometimes late at night, that's all I can do.
Right, but then you get to the point.
That's where that large bobber comes in handy.
Right, but you're still clicking too early sometimes, or way too late, because your reaction time's all messed up by then.
Yeah.
Yeah, try it on a PvP server. That'll keep you awake. But yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people, just the whole idea of having to fish 500 fish up to get a mount, they're just not going to want to do it. And if they say, oh, hey, they're being sold in the auction house, if the price is right, and never underestimate how lazy somebody can be.
Yeah.
If they don't even have to go to the Dark Moon Fair except for to buy it, I guess you have to go there to buy it. But if they're able to just pop into the auction house, buy the fish, get them out, and go on to whatever they were doing, some people will pay a nice chunk of change for that. So if you set yourself up and you can just fish for long periods of time while you're watching Netflix or listening to an Audible book or something like that, you can make a lot of gold. I think there's definitely an opportunity, but it's going to be a realm by realm kind of thing. Make sure that your realm isn't one of those that doesn't have a market.
Right. And it's just been all over the place, just depending on the realm. I mean, I'm only on 3 right now, but there's 2 of them where it's relatively high. Whisperwind is insane. I was just like, holy cow.
Yeah, you normally don't see this much realm variation on something like this, like we're seeing. And I think it's really kind of a case of, maybe people catching on to it. If too many people are doing it, obviously it drives the price down. But it also can be a function of people just not knowing about it on that realm and nobody taking advantage of it because the fish were used for something else. So, because they have another purpose, people might still be putting them up for sale based on what they could be used for. Okay, and the next thing on our list that's changing is the Falconsaur invasion. And this is an interesting little thing. You've got these little guys who come in and they're invading all over the place, and they drop eggs and feathers, and occasionally you're going to see what's called an orphaned pet, an orphaned one that you can raise as a pet. I don't know if anybody remembers. There was a quest in Ungora Crater, and you get yourself a little raptor and a little pet raptor guy, and he would you do your dailies every day, and you'd feed him, and eventually he'd turn into a mount. And that's kind of the case for this thing. I know this isn't a gold making thing, and a few of the things that we're talking about are not. But I have found that people that are really into making gold usually collect mounts. It kind of goes hand in hand because, let's face it, what are you going to spend millions of gold on except for mounts?
There's also, during the Falcon Invasion, there's also going to be things dropping for new cooking recipes and for new first aid. So,
yeah, have you looked into what I don't know if they've actually said or not? Have you seen specifically what those recipes are going to be and what they're going to do?
Oh, I had looked them up. If you give me a second. I didn't know you were going to ask me about that. Actually, no, I don't have it listed here.
Okay.
I had it on a different one of the sites I was looking at.
But they are going to be for new cooking recipes, which might be interesting. I'm wondering what they would do with first aid, though.
It says that they're going to be reagents for new first aid recipes and cooking available from the Wardens faction that Honored and Revered. So you'll have to be honored and revered with the Wardens to be able to do that. I found it in my notes.
Oh boy, there you go. So yeah, that'll be an interesting thing. I'm always looking for new mounts to get, and one of the things I like about this 7.1 patch, I see a couple of mounts that I can definitely go after and add to the mount count, which I haven't done too much of lately. I've been kind of in a rut, and I've kind of hit an area where I've gotten most of the real easy ones. So it's going to take a little bit more. There are a few more faction mounts that I can grind out and get that are older world faction mounts that I need to chase after. But at any rate,
go ahead.
No, that's all I had really to say about the Falcosaur invasion.
And there's more gold making opportunities up here. New raids that are coming out with the new expansion, the Trial of Valor, for alchemists selling flasks or herbalists that are going to sell herbs to make the flasks. Should be some good money. I'm still making decent amount of gold on from alchemy. Just put things up day before the reset on the raids, and usually selling all of my flasks I put up in the auction house, as long as I don't put up a ridiculous price. I'm never the lowest, but I'm not the highest either.
Right, and with a new raid coming, like you said, we've got a new raid coming with this 7.1 content patch. You've got more and more people that are coming into raiding. And with an influx like that, you're going to have a much greater demand for the flasks. And you do want to work your timing. I don't know, did you mention about Mondays? You just did?
Well, I just mentioned the day before raids, but yeah, it would be Monday, okay. Because Tuesdays is when everything is reset.
Yeah, I started to say, and I realized, hey, I think you already said that. But yeah,
I'm not sure I mentioned a day.
Yeah, it's important to have them up there and available. And the other thing is, the herbs. Now on the herbs, I would, I think I'd be looking at Saturday, maybe Sunday, trying to get your herbs in there so that the people that are looking to make the flasks can grab the mats and make the flasks and get them back on the market in time, because they're going to be trying to hit that Monday mark as well for their flasks
And using the auction house that way, there are certain days of the week where prices go up and down, and you can make more profit by putting things on the auction house on certain days of the week. And it's just watching the auction house and studying how things, the ebb and flow of the sales. I know I make more money on certain items, certain days of the week than I do on other days.
Well, and that actually brings up a point that has nothing really to do with 7.1, but I'll mention it anyway. And that's that in a stable market, which, let's be clear, we don't have one of those right now. But, not right after an expansion comes out. But in a stable market where an expansion has been out for a little while, haven't had a content patch maybe for a little bit, prices are kind of evened out, you will find that throughout the week, it'll be like it'll be a wave. The price will go up and down during the week in a lot of times in a very predictable way. And there are a lot of people that take advantage of that arbitrage. And so maybe they'll be able to buy something on on Saturday cheaper, and then sell it on Tuesday and make a nice profit, and then just repeat the same process the next week. The danger in doing something like that right now is you've got a falling market for the most part, where things have started out really high, and the market can go into a free fall pretty quickly, and so you can end up buying something that you're never going to be able to flip. And so flipping things right after an expansion comes out is it's a risky proposition, and if you're not really experienced in the auction house, not something I would really recommend. Now, people that are very experienced in it can make a lot of gold early on in the expansion doing that, don't get me wrong, but they're mostly taking advantage of people that are mispricing things, not the ebb and flow of the prices changing throughout the week. That's not happening as much. So yeah, just a little word to the wise on that. But yeah, after things settle down, it is another way to make gold, to where all you're doing is buying low and selling high, because low is day X and high is day Y. And once you've established that and you've kind of tracked it out on the Undermine Journal or something, you can take advantage of it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that thing. It pretty much covers herbs and flasks for the new raid that's coming out. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is there's a new vendor in Dalaran, and her name is Ilnea Bloodthorn. And like I said, she's in Dalaran, and she is she's Blood Trader. And you can trade Blood of Sargeras, one Blood of Sargeras, for various different items that she sells. Now, she sells, all of the different Legion herbs and ore and, the skinning items, skinned items. You've got fish and so forth. And when it first went on the PTR, you would get stacks of 20 of the different items, and that didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was Fell Slate or if it was, Broken Claws. It was 20 that you were getting for one Blood of Sargeras, which a lot of people were worried that was going to crush a couple of markets because of, the exchange was just way too high in some cases and way out of proportion, compared to others.
Correct.
They have since adjusted that. You no longer will get 20 Starlight Rose for one Blood of Sargeras. It's now 3. And other ones have changed to various amounts of 5 or what have you. Some are still at 20, I think. Right. But based on what the item is, and I think the amounts were initially placeholders. I don't think Blizzard ever intended really for those to be the amounts. But there's an added thing. And this is what I'm really excited about. You can trade one Blood of Sargeras for a resource cache. And this resource cache has Order Hall resources. It's good for, it's a clicky for 200 Order Hall resources. And from what I can tell, this is a tradable item. So you actually have numerous ways, with the herbs and ore and so forth, and now with this, to turn your Blood of Sargeras, which is buy none pickup, into something that you can sell. And a cache of order hall resources, cache of 200, is probably going to sell for a nice chunk on the auction house. At least initially, I think it might be a good gold maker.
So those are just, they're not going to be bind an account. You think they're going to be sellable on the auction house? That's
how they're set up now on the PTR, as far as I can tell. And so, if you're sitting on 100 Blood of Sargeras, that's 100 is 20,000 order hall resources. And the way you can look at it is, I can sell these on the auction house, or my alt, who's really order hall resource poor, I can beef him up so he can do the things that he needs to do. And so this is one of those things that I was talking about, things that are changing in 7.1 and beyond, that are going to make the game a lot more alt friendly.
There we go.
So yeah, and if you use it on your alts and you're creative about it, there are ways to make gold directly with it, because if you have a whole bunch of alts that are going to be doing the missions in the order hall, the drawback and the reason why it's not as big a gold maker as what the garrisons were is because with the garrisons, let's face it, it was, you've got all your alts in there, and you're running unlimited numbers of missions. You can run as many missions as you want, because once you have established your garrison and made your initial purchases, you've got a garrison cache that's constantly filling up with resources. Well, you don't have that with the order hall. You have to actually go out into the world to get order hall resources. Not anymore. What this will let you do is it'll let you put your alts in the order hall and just leave them there if you choose, and just send them these order resource caches, and use that to run the gold missions.
Yeah, you're still going to have to farm up the Blood of Sargeras, but
yes, but if you have a gatherer, you're getting a ton of that.
Oh yeah, I got Blood of Sargeras coming out the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most people that have a gatherer are in that situation, and all of a sudden, if you're using this to convert into order hall resources, a double gatherer is no longer looking so bad anymore.
There we go.
All of a sudden, you have an outlet for the bloods, and you have a way to make your alts more viable at the same time. So yeah, I see that as a very positive thing.
Another thing that's coming out in 7.1 are new mounts, and I know this is a big thing for you. I'm not as big into the mounts as you are, but you get exalted with all the different factions while leveling with the different zones, and there are new mounts available. So
for each of the leveling zones, I believe there's one for each one of them. You'll be able to go to the quartermaster there. And if you are exalted, you will be able to purchase a brand new mount that's introduced into the game. And there's a reason now to go back and max out all those factions. You no longer have to get friendly with them to be able to do the world quest thing. They've adjusted that, and to get your flight master whistle, you don't need the faction any longer, but they have added a reason to go after it if you're a mount collector, and I will certainly max out all of the factions and get those mounts, and I know a lot of people will as well. Obviously no gold to be made on something like that, but as I said before, I tend to think that gold making, people that are into gold making are very interested in collecting mounts as well. So that's going to bring us to the last thing I have on my list, and that's they've added the imbued silkweed bag. We talked about this before. This was going to be coming. It's coming in 7.1, and this is the new 30 slot bag. there's a lot of controversy over this. There's a lot of doomsayers that are worried that it's going to kill the hex weave market, because hex weave is, if you haven't been paying attention, hex weave has been going up in price, and on most realms, the prices on hex weave are very healthy, and
Right.
you can make a nice chunk of change out of it. I still make them. I know you still make them.
I still make them and Ember Silk.
Yeah. The cost of making the imbued silk weave bag, you need to have 100 imbued silk weave, which you need enchanting mats and the silk that drops, and you need 10 blood of Sargeras. Now let's remember that the 10 blood of Sargeras are going to have a gold value after this patch, because there is going to be a way to turn that into gold that's going to be the most efficient way, whether it's going to be buying ore, or buying Starlight Rose with it, or, which I doubt it's going to be that, or what I think is more likely, the resource cache. 10 bloods is 2,000 order hall resources tradable.
Right.
And I don't think it's worth it for the bag. Now, once you get up to 3-star, you get the 3-star recipe, which God knows how hard that's going to be to get.
Right.
Then you can do it with 60 silks and 8 bloods. Still not great. I mean,
Right.
I don't think it's any threat to Hexweave whatsoever. And I'll tell you another thing. I think it's another reason to get interested in paying attention to Ember Silk bags again. I know you're doing Ember Silk still. I backed off on it, but I'm getting back into it. Ember Silk has come up quite a bit.
Well, it's something I can do quickly. I mean, I can get the resources really quickly, spend, in the evening an hour or so just buzzing around there, get about 300 Ember Silk and make a bunch of bags, put them on the auction house, and they sell.
Oh, yeah. And it's Ember Silk, especially now, if you used to try to do, the 25-man heroic of oh boy.
Bastion of Twilight.
Bastion of Twilight, where's my brain? If you used to try to do that at level 100 and you were severely undergeared and you didn't have the leech trinket, to help you out a little bit, and you were just having a hard time pulling that whole room and just wiping them out, if it was taking you too long for it to be worth it, try it again at 110. Because at 110 completely naked, you'll be able to just go through it like butter. So there's an opportunity now. Anybody can completely wipe out that room in a little over a minute, maybe. Right. And if it takes you a little over a minute, most of that time is looting and dealing with your bags filling up.
And if you can get potions of treasure finding to use in there as well, I mean, that's a bonus.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it without the treasure finding potions. I've just never been a fan of doing it without having that active. It gives you a whole lot more. But yeah, I think that Hexweave and Ember Silk, and this is kind of unprecedented a little bit, I think. Usually when a new expansion comes out, there's a new bag that overtakes the old bag, and the old bag drops like a stone in value. Not really happening this time.
Right.
And so... I think,
unless there's a big change, I think there's still going to be a healthy market in Ember Silk and Hexweave.
Yeah, and Ember Silk is a great option for people that don't want to spend what Hexweave are going for, because they are going up in price, and some people aren't going to want to spend that much. And I think Ember Silk is going to fly off the shelves. That's my opinion on it. Anything else you'd like to add about Ember Silk bags?
No.
About imbued silkweave bags.
No. I think you're 100% right on. I think they're going to be more expensive to make them than they're worth. All
right. Well, like I was saying before, I think that 7.1 is going to bring a lot of new gold making opportunities, as well as some fun mounts to go after. Like I said, I'm very, very much looking forward to Karazhan for the fun of running through that. I'm sure there are some gold-making opportunities that we're not even aware of that are going to pop up in the next week or two. We're going to find out about some new things as it sits on the PTR and people mess around with it. But before we wrap up, I would like to take the time to thank everybody who's been sending us comments and suggestions for the show. And I want to say again, if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover or something you'd like us to experiment around with and check out, let us know. We want to provide you with the content that you want to hear.
Yeah, because it's not just about our journey making gold. We want to be able to help you if you have any questions and be able to help you make gold.
Absolutely. But, I think that's going to wrap up this week's show. Why don't we tell everybody how they can get in contact with us?
Well, you can get a hold of us at MAC at GoblinGoldcast.com. You can get a hold of us on Facebook or on Twitter at Goblin Goldcast.
And don't forget, you can leave us a voicemail on our website, GoblinGoldcast.com. And please subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher if you listen to us there.
And we'll see you next week.
Now go make some gold.
So then, he asked me to go up on him.